Good morning, Patrick, coming to you live here from Complete Health, and I just wanted to jump on and just talk to you guys about obviously the beautiful weather that we're having, but just some tips and hints of ways that you should really be taking care of yourself during this kind of weather, this kind of environment. It's been absolutely stunning. Actually, it's quite nice, the fact that we've had a little bit of rain overnight, because it's actually dropped the temperature right down, making it so much more comfortable sleeping, etc. But what I wanted to just quickly run through is some stuff that people quite often forget when the weather gets really good. So the great thing about the sun is it actually provides a lot of good nutrients for the body. It actually helps improve and stabilize people's mood. It provides vitamin D. It's a really good thing so long as you're taking care of the amount of time that you spend in it. So when this weather gets really hot and nice, like it has done over the last couple of weeks, people quite often forget some of the things that they should really be doing. So here are some of the key points or key tips that you should really take into consideration when the sun is out and people are inviting you for barbecues every day and you're going down to the beach, etc. So what we know during this time of year, or some of the things that I see that are a massive detriment, is people forget about stuff like their hydration levels, the types of foods that they're eating, the fact that they start drinking more alcohol, they don't limit their sun, they spend too long in the sun, they don't put sunscreen on, etc. So here's some of my biggest tips of how to take care of yourself when the sun is shining. So number one, double your water intake. Most people are not drinking enough water. In general, this isn't during the summer, this is in general. But during the summer, our water intake, or our levels of water intake, need to drastically rise because of the volume of water that we're actually losing through our breath and through our sweat. The air is drier. And therefore we are going to lose much more water through our breath. We are going to be sweating and respiring a hell of a lot more because of the weather. And again, so we are technically going to lose a lot of water. Now, for someone with my level of activity, because I'm running around patients and stuff all day, for an averaged 80-kilo man who is moderately to highly active, you should be drinking somewhere between 3.5 to 4.5 liters per day. Now, what you also have to understand is the amount of water that we're losing through stuff like coffee, diuretics like beer, any alcohol, sodas or fizzy drinks. They all make you lose water. So if you're drinking any of those substances, you actually then need to drink even more fluids in order to actually bump that back up again. Now, the other thing with staying hydrated is not just about fluid. It's not just about water. So it's very easy to just have a water bottle and just keep filling it up throughout the day and just drinking gallons and gallons of water. But what can actually happen is if all you do is drink fluid and you just drink water, you don't actually replace any of the electrolytes in your body, you're still going to become dehydrated. So what we have to make sure is that within our food sources that we're getting adequate and moderate levels of stuff like sodium, potassium, magnesium, manganese, all of these minerals that we get from our food, and actually quite often are found in much higher quantities in stuff like spring water, will actually start to boost up and create an isotonic balance for our cells. Now, if all we have is water and there's no salts or minerals, what starts to happen is the fluid gets sucked into our cells too quick, and it can actually start to make them overexpand and they become over-exaggerated. So what we want to do is create an isotonic balance. Now, isotonic drinks are great for this, but what you need to be careful is with all the fillers, the additives, etc. that are in these can actually start to create their own issues. So some of the things I find can be really helpful to create your own isotonics is using stuff like freshly squeezed orange juice in a big glass of water with little pinches of salt. Himalayan pink salt is much better because it's much higher in natural minerals than white sea salt. So you'll actually find that you get more from that. Limit your time in the sun. Try not to go into midday sun. Midday sun is when really the sun in this country is at its hottest. It's between midday and 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Shouldn't really be spending hours and hours and hours in the sun at those periods of time. And the thing is, if you are, then you're going to have to wear a very high factor sunscreen. Now, if you're putting loads of high factor sunscreens on, there is evidence to actually suggest that sunscreen is just as bad for your skin as the sun. So you can actually cause detrimental effects. Now, obviously, it's much better to have a little bit of sunscreen on than it is to burn excessively. So you have to weigh up the scenarios, but lathering up with tons and tons of sunscreen so you can sit in the midday sun is not necessarily beneficial for your health. So essentially, be careful, be courteous, choose the times that you sit in the sun wisely and limit those. Really, in this type of weather, we only really need to sit in the sun for about half an hour in decent, moderate sunlight with over 25% of our skin exposed in order to actually get the adequate levels of vitamin D that we need in order to actually function. Now, some other things that are key during this time of year when it's really hot like this is keeping your room to sleep in cool. At the moment, one of the biggest things or one of the biggest effects I'm seeing with patients at the moment, especially where they're starting to kind of get sore in practice, is that people are not sleeping or recovering properly because their room or their environment is not set up for it. Because all the windows and stuff are open, all the fans are whirring, it's keeping them awake at night. So you want to try and make sure your room is adequately cooled before you get there, rather than waiting until you get there to try and cool it down. So try and adequately cool your room. And the last one is, this time of year when the weather is really, really hot, we obviously start to enjoy having social gatherings, barbecues, etc. And so what I see with these scenarios is that we become gluttonous with the foods that we're eating. We choose not necessarily foods that we should be eating, and also a lot of alcohol starts to get consumed. Now, this kind of brings us back to the first point with staying hydrated, that when we drink lots of beer, especially in the sun, what starts to happen is alcohol is a diuretic, and as a result, we start to lose fluid, not gain it, even though you're drinking pints and pints and pints. You will find that actually your body becomes dehydrated. It's one of the effects of the hangover. So if you're going to sit out in the sun and you're going to have a few beers and a barbecue with your friends, be courteous about the foods that you eat and how often you're doing them, because what we know about smoked foods is that they are carcinogenic and they can actually create irritation to your guts and your colons if you're eating excessive amounts. Now, what we know is that the smoky flavor binds to fat better than anything. So if you're eating tons and tons of fats that are smoked, especially on meats, then you're going to find that actually you're absorbing a lot more of the carcinogenic effect of the barbecue. Also, like I say, just be aware of how much alcohol you're consuming. There are obviously guidelines for a reason. So enjoy the sun. I'm not saying I'm going to poo-poo on the parade of enjoying the sun. Good morning, good morning. I'm not going to the fact that we've got this beautiful, stunning weather. Enjoy it, but just be courteous about how that can actually affect your health if you abuse it. It's like anything. Too much of a good thing can become a bad thing. I actually did a topic earlier on in the week about Mo Farah and his training. Yes, we all know that exercise is very, very good for us, but the problem that Mo Farah was actually having is that because he was excessively training, he was actually detrimenting his benefits as a whole. So don't detriment your benefits of the sun, don't detriment and lose your water. Make sure you're getting your right minerals so that you actually can keep the hydration. Obviously ensure that you're keeping your room cool enough so that you're getting the right levels of sleep still. And like I say, just moderate those barbecues, the smokes, and like I say, also the volume of alcohol. It's actually, the statistics on alcohol consumption over COVID is actually outstanding. When I had a little look at the statistics, the amount of alcohol now that Brits are starting to consume has drastically risen during COVID. And ironically, alcohol is an immunosuppressant, so it's quite funny that so many people are over consuming alcohol because it can actually have a huge impact on people's immune system and their health, which is ironic because everyone wants to avoid what's going on. Until tomorrow, guys, have a lovely day. Enjoy the sun. Hopefully it's a little bit cooler today after that little bit of rain, and I will see all of you in the clinic very, very soon. Take care.